Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For the first, I would like to say thank you for the webinar as a lecturer of this statistic this semester. And I'm Muhammad Fajar Amirul Mumin. Today, on in here, I will explaining about the last project about the correlation statistic and experimental research. Okay, the first about the correlation. So we have the background in here. The learning achievement can be influenced by the various factors, one of which is learning motivation. Students with high motivation tend to be more enthusiastic in learning. They receiving high grades. Therefore, the researchers will conduct a study, a correlation between student learning motivation and student learning achievement. That student will collect or we selected at randomly, and the following score we obtained. So in here, the researchers want to know the correlation between the student motivation, learning motivation and student learning achievement. So for the research problem, is there a significant correlation between student motivation and student achievement? And we have two variables. It is the learning motivation and student achievement. For the hypothesis, for the null hypothesis, we can say there is no significant correlation between the student learning motivation and student learning achievement. And for the alternative, there is a significant correlation between the student learning motivation and student learning achievement. Okay, this is the score. And we turn to, after using SPSS, we get the score. In here, the percent correlation, the score is 0.990, which is very high, mendekati 1. So we can say the correlation is very strong. And in here, we have the significant score, and which is 0.001, and that's I can say that's which is the smaller than the alpha 0.05. So we can say we reject the null hypothesis. We can reject the null hypothesis. We use the alternative hypothesis. There is a significant correlation between student learning motivation and student learning achievement. Because the significant score is smaller than the alpha. So the conclusion, the correlation coefficient is 0.990. That just means it's very strong positive correlation between the student motivation score and student achievement score. And the higher the motivation to learn, the higher the student learning achievement they obtain. And also, the significant value point is 0.001. From this reason, it's obtained that 0.01. It's smaller than 0.05 or the alpha, so the null hypothesis is rejected. And why we use the person product moment correlation? Ya, karena sudah memenuhi syarat. Syaratnya yaitu salah satunya we have two variable, which mean the learning motivation and student achievement, dan skornya berupa rasio atau ordinal. Okay, for the next, about the experimental. For the background, one important factor in learning English is motivation. In some cases, the students have low motivation because they do not make full use of learning media. The resulting is monotonous learning. The video learning media are believed to be able to increase the student motivation to learn. Therefore, the researchers want to to investigate the effect of using video learning media on student motivation to learn English. The class consists of two groups, namely Group C and Group D. Group C acts as an experimental group, and Group D acts the control group. After treatment in the form of the test, the following values were collected. So in here, we can say this is a quasi-experimental because we have two groups, and a group C is the experimental, and a group D the control group. Okay, for the research problem, does use of video learning media have significant effect on the motivation of the high school student to learn English? Sorry, it's not the high school student to learn English. Okay, from the research variable, we have two variable. Independent variable is learning media. We can say the video learning media or without the media. This is the variable. And then for the dependent variable is the student motivation to learn English. Okay, for the hypothesis, for null hypothesis, there is no significant difference between the use of video learning media on student motivation to learn English. And for the alternative, there is a significant difference between the use of video learning media on student motivation to learn English. And this is for the F test. This is for the D test. This is for the F test. There is differences of standard deviation of the group are equal for the null hypothesis, and for the alternative hypothesis, there is differences of standard deviation of the group are not equal. So this is the first one to know the standard deviations equal or not equal. And in here, we have the score after using SPSS. For the F test score, the significance is 0.221, which is greater than the alpha 0.05, and we can say the null hypothesis is not rejected. And for the T test, you can say the significant to tell in here, the score is 0.001, which is smaller than the alpha 0.05. So that is mean we can reject the null hypothesis. Is it? There is no significant difference. We rejected that. And we can say the alternative hypothesis, there is a significant difference between the use video learning media and student motivation. So the conclusion is, by rejecting the null hypothesis, assuming that using video learning media is effective to improve the motivation in learning English. Well, I think that my explaining in here, in explaining today. If I have any mistake, I apologize. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.